Hi there, welcome to what's happening in Brazil. Let's start with the latest news from the country.
Brazil is going through its worst phase of the COVID-19 pandemic. The country had 2 consecutive days with a record number of deaths, 1,641 on March 2nd and 1,910 on March 3rd. The total number of fatalities since the start of the pandemic already tops 260,000. At least 19 of the 27 states in the federation are seeing ICU bed occupancy rates of 80%. In some localities, this figure has already reached 100%. Such is the case in Rio Grande do Sul. In the state capital of Porto Alegre, a private hospital had to install a shipping container to hold the bodies of those who died from the disease. In order to contain the uncontrolled advance of the virus, many states and municipalities are adopting measures restricting movement. In the country's most populous state, São Paulo, only essential services will be allowed to operate until March 19th. According to specialists, the rise in the number of cases and deaths is a reflection of New Year's and Carnival parties. Though celebrations that draw large gatherings have been prohibited throughout the country, many clandestine parties have been taking place. Another issue worrying epidemiologists is the Brazilian COVID-19 strain known as P1. It comes from the city of Manaus, in the state of Amazonas, located in the country's north. According to a study done by the Oswaldo Cruz Foundation, one of the country's leading healthcare research institutions, this new strain may have a viral load up to 10 times greater than other variants of the disease. All the while, President Jair Bolsonaro continues to minimize the gravity of the situation. He affirmed that the media is instigating panic among the population and discarded the possibility of a nationwide lockdown. He also vetoed a measure that would force Brazilian regulators to approve the emergency use of vaccines already approved by foreign healthcare systems recognized by Brazil in no more than 5 days. Furthermore, the president vetoed states and municipalities from buying doses of the vaccine directly. However, in practice, this veto has no power, seeing as the Supreme Court has allowed mayors and governors to directly purchase shots. A consortium of state governors is already negotiating the acquisition of the Russian-made Sputnik V vaccine, which is already being used in neighboring Argentina.
The lack of coordination in the distribution of vaccines throughout Brazil has created a peculiar phenomenon: vaccine tourism. Many people are looking to get inoculated in cities where vaccination campaign is more advanced.
Some cities have extra doses of the vaccine, while others are suspending their vaccination campaigns due to a lack thereof. The lack of coordination in the distribution of vaccines throughout Brazil has created a peculiar phenomenon: vaccine tourism. Many people are looking to get inoculated in cities where the vaccination campaign is more advanced. Such is the case for a São Paulo healthcare professional who doesn't wish to be identified. She has been providing psychological and social care to vulnerable persons since the start of the pandemic, and states that till now, there is no vaccine in sight for workers in her sector. Thus, she decided to go to a small countryside city to get her shot.
I've been following the vaccination schedule of a city close to São Paulo. I'm thinking of how to get the vaccine, because in the city of São Paulo, getting the shot anytime soon isn't likely.
Another example of vaccine tourism is what happened in São Gonçalo, located in the state of Rio de Janeiro. The city started getting a lot of demand for the vaccine once it allowed for physical therapists, veterinarians, and physical education professionals to get immunized. The municipality had to suspend this allowance. According to the law, getting vaccinated in another city is not illegal. However, the practice may cause a negative impact, especially for those on the front lines who have yet to receive the vaccine. For this epidemiologist, the problem stems from the government's incompetence when taking the specific needs of each region into account.
At this point in time, it doesn't make sense to have equal distribution among the population. You need to analyze the different layers of the population, taking into account that some people have priority, and thus to engage in a logical and rational distribution process to make sure that no vaccines are lacking for people who have priority in other locations.
According to the expert, in the context of a pandemic with varying levels of contagion, planning the distribution of vaccines needs to start over with shorter timeframes.
I need to have people managing the distribution of the vaccine. It's almost a daily analysis of what is going on. Mapping the hot zones shows variations occurring every 10 to 14 days. Then you know what regions need the vaccine more urgently.
Now, we are going to introduce you to the viola caipira, which roughly translates to redneck guitar. This typically Brazilian instrument has been in the lives of country folk for centuries and has yet many stories to tell.
a truly Brazilian instrument that has always been there for the parties, struggles, dreams, and joys of the people from the countryside. This is what the viola caipira is. The guitar was brought to Brazil by Jesuits who came to the country to convert the indigenous population. One of the most famous guitarists of that era was Father José de Anchieta. In no time, the instrument was adopted by rural workers and was given the name of viola caipira. It became a mainstay in gatherings, parties, and celebrations within rural communities. Also, it was through this instrument that the people could sing poetry from the countryside and base on their lives within nature.
The people used the viola to portray the ludic, poetic form, to sing of this countryside, sing of this happiness, sing about the joy to be alive. Therefore, the viola caipira is linked to this life force, the reproduction of life, in all its beauty and essence.
So throughout Brazil, more than 50 ways of tuning this instrument were developed, and many rhythms along with it. With urbanization and advancement of agribusiness, life in the countryside has changed. However, viola players who sing of the beauties of nature and rural life continue to resist. Among them is Zé Pinto, a viola player and member of the rural landless workers movement. Alongside Mineirinho, he is responsible for keeping the viola tradition alive and thriving among those that are fighting for land reform and in defense of nature.
We want to speak of the love for this land, to question all the ill treatment it has been suffering from. The viola is a marvelous instrument because it will go on a journey to speak of the moon, the stars, the poetry circle. The viola sound seems to open up the way for us to walk through.
Amar o campo, ao fazer a plantação, não envenenar o campo, é purificar o pão. Amar a terra e nela botar semente, a gente cultiva ela e ela cultiva a gente.
And now it's time for Brazilianism.
Hoje eu vou fazer uma receita.
Today I'll be making a stuffed pumpkin. It's an Armenian recipe served in weddings and New Year's, but I'm gonna be making this dish with the Brazilian countryside flavor. I open it up, cut it, now I'm gonna remove the pumpkin top. The rice is already cooked. I left it al dente because it's going into the oven with the pumpkin, so it will cook a little more. I removed the pumpkin seeds and rinsed it with water. Now I'm gonna slice some of this dried cashew fruit and a little bit of cashew nuts. Then I add the rice. I'm using a mixture of brown and red rice. The cashew nut and the dried cashew, a little bit of salt. To give it that countryside flavor, I'll add the flowers of a Brazilian herb known as alfavaca. Now I'm gonna stuff the pumpkin. First, I'm going to spread some liquid butter all over the inside of the pumpkin. I'll add the filling till about halfway. A little bit of molasses, a little bit of liquid butter. Then I will add the alfavaca leaves. As it cooks, its perfume rises. A little more stuffing till the top. A little bit more molasses, a little bit more liquid butter, and some more alfavaca leaves. I'm going to close it up. It's going to bake for around 30 minutes till the insides of the pumpkin are really soft.
Liked the show? So hit the like button and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive notifications. We'll see you next week.